I, 25F, never thought I would be sharing this story, but here I am. My dad remarried when I was 7, just 2 years after my mom died from cancer. Those 2 years before Tiffany were tough but precious. Even though Dad was grieving, he tried his best to be there for me. We had a Friday movie night tradition, and he'd take me to the park every weekend. Things weren't perfect, but we had each other. Tiffany came into our lives through Dad's coworker. She'd already had 2 kids from her previous marriage, twins Tom and Lisa, who were 4 at the time. Her ex-husband had moved to a different state and barely kept in contact with the twins. When Dad introduced us, Tiffany seemed nice. She would bring cookies when she visited and always asked about my day at school. The twins were cute, and I was excited about having siblings since I'd been an only child. The wedding was small, and Tiffany asked me to be her flower girl. I remember feeling special in my new dress, thinking I was getting a real mom again. The first few months after they married were okay. Tiffany decorated my room with butterfly stickers because I mentioned liking them once. She helped me with my homework and included me in family activities. Everything changed when Tiffany got pregnant with Emma. At first, I was excited about having another sibling. But as Tiffany's pregnancy progressed, her attitude toward me shifted. She stopped helping me with homework, saying she was too tired, but I'd hear her helping the twins with their assignments later. When I asked for help, she'd say I needed to be more independent since I was older. The change was gradual but consistent. She started forgetting things, my lunch for school, picking me up from after-school activities, or buying me necessities like school supplies. Meanwhile, the twins always had everything they needed. When I told Dad about forgotten lunches, Tiffany claimed I must have misplaced them or that I never told her I needed lunch money. I still remember my first band concert in 4th grade. I had practiced my clarinet for weeks and was so excited to perform. Dad promised to come, but Tiffany told him last minute that Tom had a stomach ache and needed someone to stay with him. Dad missed my concert to stay home with Tom, who was miraculously better the next day and playing in the yard. When I got upset, Tiffany said I was being selfish and should care more about my brother's health. When Emma was born, the favoritism became impossible to ignore. Tiffany took millions of pictures of the twins holding their new sister but didn't include me in any family photos. She would introduce us to people as my 3 kids and my stepdaughter, making sure everyone knew I wasn't really hers. Christmas that year, the twins and Emma got new bikes and gaming consoles while I got discount store clothes that were too big. Dad worked long hours at his construction company, usually leaving before sunrise and returning after dinner. When he was home, Tiffany would tell him about how difficult I was being. If I tried to defend myself, she'd cry about how I was attacking her and making her feel like a bad mother. Dad always sided with her, telling me I needed to try harder to make our family work. The incidents piled up over the years. When I was 12, Tiffany organized a huge pool party for the twins' birthday with all their friends. For my birthday the next month, she bought a small cake from the grocery store and told me we couldn't afford a party because they had spent too much on the twins' celebration. When I got upset, she told me I should be grateful she remembered it all since I wasn't her real daughter. Dad was there but said nothing. In middle school, I joined the debate team and won several competitions. Tiffany never came to any debates, saying she had to attend Tom's football practice or Lisa's dance recitals. When I won the state championship, she just shrugged and said extracurriculars weren't as important as real sports. But when Tom made the junior varsity football team, she threw a party and invited the whole family. High school was even worse. I maintained straight A's while working part-time at a local diner to save money for college. Tiffany never acknowledged my academic achievements but praised Lisa for maintaining a C average. When Tom got a B in math, Tiffany bought him a new PlayStation as a reward for improving. Meanwhile, she complained about having to buy my school supplies. The real breaking point came during college applications. The twins and I were in the same grade since they had started school early. I worked hard and got accepted into several good universities with partial scholarships. The twins got into private colleges with average grades and no scholarships. That's when Tiffany convinced Dad they should pay full tuition for all 3 of her kids while telling me to take loans because that's what builds character. I overheard them arguing about money one night. Dad mentioned they couldn't afford 3 full tuitions, but Tiffany insisted her kids deserved private education. When Dad brought up helping me too, Tiffany said I could handle loans since I was so independent anyway. She argued that the twins needed more support because they weren't as academically inclined as me, and Emma would need private school too in the future. They found money for everything else though. Lisa got a new car for getting her license, while I took the bus to my part-time job. Tom got expensive football training camps and new equipment, but I had to buy my own textbooks. Emma was enrolled in every possible after-school activity, while I was told to focus on working since college would be expensive. I moved out for college, taking loans and working 2 jobs to make ends meet. Tiffany's favoritism continued even then. She would post photos of family vacations I wasn't invited to, share proud updates about the twins' college life, and talk about how blessed she was to have 3 amazing kids, never mentioning me. When relatives asked about me, she'd say I preferred to be independent and didn't want to be part of family activities. I graduated last year with honors but also with significant debt. I found a good job in marketing and moved to a different city, limiting contact with them to occasional texts on holidays. I thought I had finally escaped the drama until last week when Dad called. Apparently, Tiffany lost her job, and they're struggling financially. The twins have graduated but can't find jobs in their fields, and Emma's private school tuition is due. Dad asked if I could help the family out since I'm doing well now. The irony of them asking me for money after years of financial favoritism isn't lost on me. Tiffany, who always made sure I knew I wasn't really her daughter, now wants me to step up as family. Dad, who let her discriminate against me for years, expects me to forget everything and help. The twins, who benefited from my mother's money without my knowledge, need my support. I haven't responded yet, but I'm leaning towards refusing. Am I wrong for wanting to let them deal with their own problems? Update 1 first, thank you everyone for the supportive comments. A lot has happened since my last post. After Dad's call, I decided to dig deeper into their financial situation. What I discovered was far worse than I imagined. I started by reaching out to my Aunt Jane, Dad's sister, who still lives in my hometown. We were close when I was younger, but Tiffany always made excuses for why I couldn't visit her after she remarried. Now I know why. Aunt Jane had been trying to tell Dad about Tiffany's behavior for years, but he always dismissed her concerns as family drama. Over coffee last weekend, Aunt Jane revealed the shocking truth: Tiffany had been fired for embezzlement from her accounting firm. She'd been taking money for years to maintain their lifestyle and pay for the kids' expenses. The company discovered the theft during a routine audit and is now pressing criminal charges. We're not talking about small amounts either. Aunt Jane estimated it was close to $200,000 over 5 years. The real financial situation is much worse than Dad admitted. They're not just struggling, they're facing potential bankruptcy. The twins moved back home because they couldn't afford their apartment rents, despite working retail jobs. Emma might have to leave her prestigious private school where Tiffany bragged about paying $30,000 a year in tuition. They're behind on their mortgage payments, and Tiffany needs money for legal fees. But what really knocked the wind out of me was what Aunt Jane revealed next. When Mom died, she left a substantial college fund for me. I had no idea this existed. Tiffany convinced Dad to use that money for the twins' college instead, claiming that since I was getting a partial scholarship, I didn't need it as much. They never told me about this fund. I took out loans and worked multiple jobs to pay for college, while my own mother's money paid for my step-siblings' education. I spent several days processing this information before I confronted Dad over the phone. At first, he tried to deny everything. When I mentioned Aunt Jane had shown me Mom's will, he broke down. Through his tears, he admitted everything: how they used my college fund, how Tiffany had been stealing to maintain appearances, how the twins had actually dropped out of college after 2 years but they kept paying their tuition, which the twins spent on traveling and shopping. The revelations kept coming. The twins knew about my college fund the whole time. They knew they were spending my inheritance while I worked as a waitress and took out loans. Tiffany had convinced them they deserved it more since their own father had abandoned them. The expensive spring break trips they posted about on social media, making sure I saw their luxurious vacations while I worked double shifts. That was my money. Tiffany got on the phone after Dad's confession. Her tone shifted between crying and manipulation. She talked about how she did everything for her family, how she didn't mean to hurt me, and how she needs my help now more than ever. She claimed she saw me as her daughter too, despite years of treating me like an outsider. When I brought up the college fund, she said she was just trying to be fair since the twins didn't have any inheritance from their own father. The twins have been blowing up my phone with texts and calls. Tom sent long messages about how we grew up together and should stick together as siblings. Lisa posted vague social media updates about family loyalty and being there in hard times. Both conveniently forgot how they watched me struggle through college while spending my inheritance on parties and trips. Aunt Jane shared more details about Mom's final months. Mom had worked extra hours and saved aggressively, knowing she was terminally ill, to ensure I would have money for college. She had written letters to me about her hopes for my future and her plans to secure it. Tiffany and Dad used that money my dying mother saved for me, to fund the twins' failed college attempts and Emma's private school. I'm still processing all this information. Finding out about Mom's college fund hit me harder than I expected. I've spent years paying off student loans for money that should have been mine. Every double shift I worked, every meal I skipped to save money, every time I had to choose between textbooks and groceries, all while my own mother's savings sat in the twins' bank accounts. Some relatives are suggesting I take legal action about the college fund, but I know it would probably be pointless now given their financial situation. The money is gone, spent by the twins on their lavish lifestyle that they made sure to document on social media. Every vacation photo they posted, every shopping spree they bragged about, it was all funded by the mother I lost. Tiffany's preliminary court hearing is next month. She's facing serious charges, and their lawyer has advised them to prepare for the worst. Dad keeps calling, alternating between apologizing for the past and asking for help with legal fees. The twins suddenly want to reconnect with their sister now that they need financial help. Emma, who Tiffany trained to ignore me at family gatherings, now calls me Big Sis in her texts. I haven't decided how to respond to any of them yet. Part of me wants to let them face the consequences of their actions. Another part feels vindicated that karma finally caught up with them. The hardest part is processing Dad's role in all this, how he let Tiffany steal not just my present, but also the final gift my mother left for me. I'll update again after Tiffany's hearing. Right now, I'm focused on processing everything I've learned and figuring out my next steps. The one thing I know for certain is that I won't be helping them financially. They spent years ensuring I knew I wasn't really family. I don't see why that should change now that they need money. Update 2: Things have escalated significantly since my last update. After discovering the truth about my college fund, I consulted a lawyer friend who specializes in estate law. While pursuing legal action for the college fund might be difficult given the time passed, she suggested looking into other aspects of Mom's will. What we found made my blood boil. Tiffany and Dad hadn't just taken my college fund. They had liquidated several other assets Mom left specifically for me, including savings bonds that were supposed to mature for my future and a small rental property that could have provided steady income. Everything was sold or transferred shortly after Tiffany entered the picture. All of it went to fund their lifestyle and their kids' expenses. My lawyer is helping me build a case. While recovering the money might be challenging, she believes we can prove fraudulent handling of my inheritance. Tiffany's embezzlement charges actually help our case. It shows a pattern of financial misconduct. We're gathering documentation from banks, property records, and Mom's old financial advisors. More relatives have started reaching out since word spread about Tiffany's legal troubles and our investigation. My mom's best friend, Karen, found old letters where Mom wrote about her plans for my future. She had meticulously planned everything: the college fund, the bonds, the property, all carefully chosen to secure my future even though she wouldn't be there. Reading these letters destroyed me. Mom spent her final months planning for me while battling cancer, only for Tiffany to steal it all. The twins' true colors are really showing now. Through family members, I learned they absolutely knew about my inheritance. Not just the college fund, but everything. They knew that their spring break trips were funded by selling my mother's property. Their shopping sprees came from my bonds. All those social media posts flaunting their lifestyle? That was my inheritance they were showing off. Now they're playing victim on social media. Tom posted a long rant about family betrayal and how I'm being selfish for not helping them during hard times. Lisa keeps sharing throwback photos of us as kids, talking about how money changed me and how I abandoned the family. They've conveniently forgotten all the years of watching me struggle while they spent my money. The family is divided. Some relatives, like Aunt Jane, fully support my legal action. Others are pressuring me to drop everything, saying families should stick together. My grandmother, Dad's mom, called to tell me I'm being cruel by attacking the family during a crisis. She thinks I should forgive Tiffany because she raised you after your mother died. I had to remind her that Tiffany did the bare minimum while stealing my inheritance. Dad's response has been a roller coaster. He keeps calling, switching between tearful apologies and angry accusations. One day he's sorry for letting Tiffany control everything, the next he's telling me I'm being ungrateful for the stable home they provided. He claims they used my inheritance for the good of the whole family and that Mom would have wanted to help all the kids. Tiffany sent me a 5-page email explaining her side. She wrote about how hard it was being a stepmother, how she was just trying to give her kids the best life possible, and how she didn't think I would mind since I was strong and independent. She claimed she always saw the twins and me as equals, so she thought it was fair to share my inheritance. The audacity of her justifying theft as fairness is astounding. Emma, who's now 13, messaged me on Instagram. She said she misses her big sister and doesn't understand why I'm making things harder for everyone. It's clear Tiffany and the twins have been feeding her their version of events. They're using a teenager to guilt-trip me, which shows they haven't changed at all. My lawyer advised me to stop responding to their messages since we might be headed to court. We're waiting for more documentation about the sold property and liquidated bonds. Meanwhile, Tiffany's embezzlement case is proceeding. The company she stole from isn't interested in settling, they want to prosecute to the fullest extent. I've had moments of doubt, wondering if pursuing legal action is worth the drama. But then I remember Mom's letters, how she fought to secure my future while fighting cancer, and my resolve strengthens. Tiffany didn't just steal money, she stole my mother's final act of love for me. That's something I can't forgive. Update 3. This will be my final update to this saga. A lot has happened, and I think it's time to close this chapter of my life. Tiffany took a plea deal for the embezzlement charges. She's serving an 18-month sentence, reduced from the possible 5 years she was facing. They still have to pay back over $200,000 in restitution to her company. Dad had to sell their house and empty their retirement savings to start paying it back. They moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment where Dad, the twins, and Emma are all crammed together. The twins finally found jobs at local retail stores after months of complaining about how they were too qualified for such work. Tom works at a sporting goods store, and Lisa is at a makeup counter. They're not happy about it, especially since many of their friends from college are starting careers. Emma had to transfer from her prestigious private school to the local public school. Tiffany's conviction made it impossible for her to maintain her social standing in their community. My legal case about the inheritance made some progress. While we couldn't recover most of the money, we did manage to get the paperwork for the rental property Mom left me. The lawyer proved that its sale was handled improperly, and we reached a settlement. It's nowhere near what was originally taken from me, but it was enough to pay off my remaining student loans. The family drama hasn't stopped. Some relatives still think I should reconcile, especially now that Tiffany is suffering the consequences. My grandmother sent a long letter about forgiveness and how family should come first. She doesn't seem to understand that they stopped treating me like family long before I stopped seeing them that way. Dad's latest message was about how I'm punishing them too harshly and how Mom would want me to forgive them. He seems to forget that Mom wanted me to have an education and financial security, not watch while her savings paid for my step-siblings' luxuries. Tiffany's side of the family, who once ignored me at gatherings, now call constantly asking me to be the bigger person. The twins tried to paint themselves as victims on social media, sharing posts about toxic family members and betrayal. They conveniently leave out the part where they spent my inheritance on vacations and shopping sprees. Lisa even had the nerve to message me asking if I could help her get a job at my company. I blocked them both. Emma sends occasional messages saying she misses me. While I feel bad for her, I know she's being used as a pawn to manipulate me. Tiffany and the twins have poisoned her perspective of the situation, making me out to be the villain who abandoned the family in their time of need. I built my own life now. Got promoted at work to senior marketing manager, bought my own condo, and surrounded myself with people who value me. My real friends have been incredibly supportive throughout this whole ordeal. Sometimes I think about the life I could have had with Mom's inheritance, graduating without debt, starting my career without the stress of loan payments, maybe even running that rental property as passive income. But I'm proud of what I've achieved on my own. Last week, I visited Mom's grave for the first time in years. I told her everything that happened and promised to live the life she wanted for me, even if it's not exactly the way she planned it. Their karma caught up with them, and I feel no obligation to help fix their self-created problems. Some family members call me cold for this stance, but I've learned that real family doesn't steal from you and then expect forgiveness when they get caught. So that's it. No happy reconciliation, no forgiveness arc, just me moving forward with my life while they deal with the consequences of their choices. Sometimes the best family is the one you choose for yourself.